And one of the people who wrote to me, probably my youngest reader, was a 9-year-old boy. I don't know how he got the email. He shouldn't, because my books are definitely not for children, because there's a lot of dark stuff in there. And he wrote to me, my little sister died last week. Mummy says she's gone to heaven. I don't know where heaven is. Can you tell me? How do I find it? How do you answer something like that? I did get into a dialogue with the mother on the email to sort that out. I don't really encourage children to write to me because it's such a grown-up subject matter, but it got me thinking, what a fantastic title for a book, because children have this way of cutting straight through all the vagaries and going straight to the heart of the matter. You put yourself up as an angel heaven expert. Where is it? How can I find it? How can I get there? So that's how I decided, that's why I decided to write a book with this title. The book's divided into 5 sections. The first section I start where I should probably start with is my own story and all the paths in my life. And I may look quite quiet, but I've had many attempts to find heaven in various human and spiritual ways. And I talk about those quite frankly in the book and the dead ends that I've come up against. I had the privilege of studying theology at King's College, Cambridge, where I thought my path to heaven was finding it through religion and Christianity, spending time in solitude as a nun, all sorts of things, and then going completely disavowing that, going into paganism, spirituality, Scientology. Believe you me, to write my encyclopedias, I have delved into every single one of those entries. I had to write the entries in the encyclopedia. If you've read my Encyclopedia of the Psychic World, I tried to cover everything when it's a huge tome, 400,000 words. So I've tried in every way I know I can to try and find heaven. Now, along the way, I do believe I caught glimpses of it. And when I hit my 40s, I started to have genuine psychic experience simply because of all the learning I'd done and all the people I'd worked with and seen. Well, I thought I had anyway. And I had one experience which was quite incredible, which I believe saved my life. And I talk a lot about that in my angel books, not so much in this one. It was truly incredible and gave me what I believe is the closest proof to heaven I think I have. However, as I was looking and writing, trying in a condensed version to write the story of my search for heaven, I began to realize there were 2 very strong themes in my life, and I'm wondering if every reader can relate to that. Especially as you're here, you must believe in heaven or have some desire to believe in it, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here in this glorious bookshop, and it really is heaven being here. To digress, I remember coming here as a teenager in my goth phase and just loving it. I mean, the atmosphere here. So I'm digressing. So there's this search, this longing for heaven and meaning in my life. And I believe I have had as close to proof of heaven as I think I will possibly find in my life. But alongside that, I've also got huge doubts. I have what I believe is a heavenly experience or encounter. A couple of weeks later, it fades, and I'm second-guessing myself. Hallucination, coincidence, all these things. So I've got the belief in heaven, and I've got doubt. And that really, really has stressed me out and actually caused me great pain, really, at being a heaven writer. How can I? And that's why I actually stepped away from my writing for 18 months a couple of years ago, because I just felt a fraud. I was writing about something I believed in, but I doubted. And how can I be a person who's getting all this mail and writing to people when I've still got doubt? But what happened in the process of writing this book, which took up to a year, I began to believe in the power of doubt. That actually my doubt is not something I should hate, but I should love about myself, because every time I doubted, it caused me to grow and evolve as a spiritual being, rather than to be stuck on a level. Let me give you an example of the power of doubt. I read a story about 7 years ago about the Twin Towers. The planes hit the first tower. People in the second tower, their instinctive reaction, get out. They all moved out. The voices of authority told them to stay calm and go back to their desks and work. Because the logic was, we don't want to add to the confusion outside. You can believe that, can't you? And so a lot of people did go back, and we know that because emails were sent. However, there were certain people who doubted that and thought, I'm out of here. I don't want to be anywhere near what's happened. They were the people who lived. The great majority of the people who listened to the voices of authority and didn't trust their initial gut instinct, sadly, didn't live to tell the tale. So that's an extreme example of the power of doubt. So that if you are committed to a religious movement or a group, whatever you call it, paganism, Wicca, Zoroastrianism, Gnosticism, Jedism, I've explored that, that's a great religion. It really is, it's actually my favorite. I write that in the book because I've got an A to Z of religions, and actually that was one of my top. Well, if you are committed to that group and it gives you a sense of meaning and purpose, and it makes you feel great, and you do no harm to other, great, that's your path to heaven. I'm not criticizing religion in this book, although I do talk about the cons of religion. And if religion is your path to heaven, and as I said, it gives you a sense of meaning and purpose, and you don't hurt other people, that's heaven for you, fine. However, if you are committed to a group and you're still feeling unhappy with your life, you don't feel that your life has meaning, you don't feel any connection with departed loved ones, you don't feel that there is a spirit, you doubt, it's basically heaven calling you to think again. And there is nothing wrong with going through religion or movement or spiritual group to try and find your right path and picking the best from each group until you find your own unique path to heaven. Because if you think about it, all the great religious leaders that we admire, Christ, Buddha, Muhammad, Lay Sao, can go on, what they had in common was that they were total originals. They did not copy someone else. And that's my big problem with religion and joining a group or movement. Even spiritualism, which I grew up in, it's basically looking to other people and saying you, this is how you get to heaven, this is what you need to do. And that's my problem. We are all totally unique miracles. Our DNA is so different. Every one of us is so different. So what worked for Christ doesn't necessarily have to work for you. Yes, it's a fine example, but you're not Christ, you never will be, but you will be you will find the potential to be like Christ within you. And I explore all that in the book, and that's why the remaining part of the book talks about what I have noticed over the years, and as I said, I've been writing about the paranormal for 25 years now. What I've noticed is that a lot of people are spiritual, but they're not religious, and they don't specifically belong to a group. There is a difference between spirituality and religion, and this is what this book is for. I call them truth seekers. Seekers buying a book like this, and I give suggestions about how to find your own truth, how to communicate with departed loved ones if you believe in life after death. And that's what the remaining part of the book is, just guidelines. I will not give instructions because I'm totally against anyone saying, this is what you do it. You must find your own path. But that comes with life experience. And I do find that when you're younger, being part of a group sometimes can give you great comfort and a sense of identity. However, there will come a time for everyone when heaven starts knocking and you start doubting that group. Now, you can either stifle those doubts and live an unfulfilled life, or you can listen to heaven calling through your doubt and evolve and find a new meaning, your path to heaven. And that's what I'd like everyone who reads this book to try and think about what heaven means to them and not look outside them to the voices of authority or any group or movement says to you. That's why certain religions that knock on your door and tell you, I know the way, that's not what I feel from my experience of working in this field. That is not how the path to heaven, in my opinion, and I admit my opinion could very well be wrong. I'm not God, I don't know the truth. I'm just giving you my perspective. And as I said, I've had a lifetime in the world of spirit, working about my passion, the search for meaning in life. And I've tried to pour as much as I can into this book. And that's why I believe it's one of the most important books I've written, because it's the most truly honest. I'm telling you about my doubts as well. I'm not just painting this sugary picture, because how can I write about heaven when something like Tunisia happens? How can you talk to the parents of a murdered child? Yes, there's a heaven. How can you do that? Doubts always come in. And I try to approach all those questions. There is a big question and answer section in the book, inspired by my readers of these big questions, and I get them. Goodness, sometimes in the morning, the questions I am asked. Why did this happen? The constant question, why do bad things happen to good people? All this I've tried to address using the knowledge that I've gained, because I feel that's very much my calling, to use all the knowledge that I've gained. And it's taken me a while to actually come out from behind the computer and share that, because I was very much of the belief when I started writing that with spiritual books like this, that the audience needs to find the book, because there's a spiritual thing about it. It should not be aggressively pushed in your face. You need to find it. But about 2 years ago, I overcame my allergy to the internet and all things about self-promotion. And I began to realize that we live in a different age now. And the internet is such a powerful tool. That's why, with the help of my publicist, Kim Nash, who runs my social media page brilliantly, and my Facebook page, I'm trying to now bring some spirit back into the UK, because I think we've got so cynical. We don't talk about what things that really matter anymore. And I feel very much that I want to try and bring some spirit back into the UK. And it's fascinating, actually, that ever since I've done that, the reaction I've had from people. I mean, don't you think it's sad today that there's no program on the television about spiritual matters anymore? There's nothing. There used to be. We used to talk about the big questions in life, but all we do is it's all selfies and photographs of what I had for breakfast on Facebook. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a social media, something, I thought of a name like Soul Space, where people could actually go and talk about what really, really matters to them, could talk about whether meditation helps them, whether this belief system, could talk about, I think I've had contact with a departed loved one, could talk about near-death experiences. And wow, near-death experiences, incredible. And talking about a wonderful coincidence, which I felt so lovely, just yesterday I had a message from Eben Alexander, who wrote Proof of Heaven, because he writes for the US Simon & Schuster, who wants to hook up with me on Facebook to see if we can, we can spread this message. Because I don't know if you've read Proof of Heaven, this fantastic book about this neurosurgeon who had a near-death experience, and it completely changed his life. And now he's going around the US, appearing on opera and all these things, trying to spread the word that the spirit for him is real. But I'm not going to stand here and say to you, I have 100% proof of heaven. I can't do that. I can show you mail that high of people who've written to me about near-death experiences, which I believe is as close we can get to proof of heaven that we have. And these events, these people, they have no reason to write to me. They're not mad. They come from all walks of life. Mums, teachers, doctors, all sorts of people have written to me. And one of the reasons for that is because of resuscitation techniques. 50 years ago, these people wouldn't have lived to tell the tale. But now we have incredible stories. And a lot of people just carry this with them and they don't talk about them. And I love the fact that I've provided a bit of a platform for people. There's some near-death experience stories in here which you're just going to go, wow. You'll feel like you stepped inside heaven. I just love the fact that people can talk to me and share that. And I'd love it after you've read the book, if you read the book, I'm assuming that you could get in touch with me and talk about it. And if you disagree with me, please say. I don't care if you disagree with me. I love it, in fact, because the very fact you're talking about heaven and the search for meaning in life, which is what this whole book's about, shows that I believe that brings heaven closer. Because we don't talk about it enough. We don't talk about what really, really matters. I probably talk about it too much because that's all I do all day, so I'm probably talk about it too much. You've got to get a balance. But I'd love you to talk about it and disagree with me. And as you read, I'll just close with two thoughts. Throughout the book, I have two thoughts running through. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. And the second one is, heaven is a reality and can be found right here, right now, in this life and the next. Just ponder those thoughts as you read. And if you agree with me at the end, if I've given you enough proof in here, I hope I have, personal proof from my own personal experience and from the experiences of others and from all my study, from academia to going out and talking to people in these fields, please talk to me about it. I would absolutely love that. At my website, www.theresacheung.com. Please get in touch, but don't feel you've got to agree with me. All I ask, and I'll just close with this thought, is keep an open mind. I believe in heaven because my life has been all about that. I choose to believe in heaven because of what's happened to me, what I've experienced, and all the wonderful people who have shared their insights and story to me. I believe in heaven without doubt. An atheist, however, doesn't believe in heaven. He will say to me, or she will say to me, we have no proof. I will turn to him or her and say, but you have no proof that heaven doesn't exist either. One of us is right and one of us is wrong. We're going to find out. The only people who will only know when we die, when we pass from this life. Or I don't like to use the term death. I like to say, well, we move on to the next realm. We'll only know the truth then. Until then, nobody can be so arrogant as to say they know, because none of us do know. The only way forward is to keep an open mind. And if you could just, after this reading book, if you open your mind, if I've opened your mind to the possibility that heaven is real, I will be feeling so happy, because in my experience, and as I said, the people who've written to me, people who open their minds just say, well, maybe heaven's real. Maybe I can talk to my lost husband, my lost son, my lost daughter, my lost dog, my lost cat, which is just as hard a loss as anything. Maybe I can. Maybe I can connect with them. And there are ways in the book I talk about connecting with people in the next life. If maybe that is possible, maybe the people who are in this book, it's true. If you can open your mind to that possibility, I promise you, because I've seen it happen, just open your mind to that and say, maybe it's true. Magic has a way of coming into your life. Coincidences start to happen, and you start attracting like-minded people into your life, and suddenly you can almost see the light. It's like a revelation. You suddenly think, I'm opening my mind to this incredible possibility, very real possibility, that heaven is real. And when you do that, I promise you, your life will transform in magical ways, unexpected ways. Heaven never works in ways you expect, very unexpected ways. So expect the unexpected. And I hope that happens after you read this book. Because after some of my books, I've had some wonderful stories about people who suddenly say something strange, something wonderful has happened to them that made them just think that heaven might be real. So I can't guarantee 100% that heaven's going to be, you're going to find heaven. But I hope I can open your mind to the idea that heaven's real. Because if you take away the idea of heaven from life, I don't know, that's not a world that I would like to be part of. The search for meaning is everything to me, and I hope I've conveyed that in this book. And thank you for coming. But I found that there were so many stories about cats coming back to their owners, or extraordinary stories about cats changing and transforming lives. It's called Psychic Cats. It didn't hit the top 10 on the Sunday Times, but it did okay. No, I definitely believe that animals have souls. I think anything that brings love and happiness and meaning, and that's the wonderful thing about animals. They just love you unconditionally. It's such an ego boost. You can look terrible, you can be in a foul mood, and you've got this unconditional love. And isn't that heaven? Being loved for no reason, that you just are you. And that's what animals give to you, and that for me is heaven. And if you find heaven in an animal, great, not a problem. Don't let anybody ever tell you that's not the path to heaven. And that's what this book is all about. Again, to return to the book, it's about you finding your unique path, because none of us know the truth about it. Well, I've had stories, anecdotes, of people who've actually seen their departed dogs, or their dog has appeared at a certain time to them when they were most needing comfort and reassurance, and especially children. I found this has happened, and I do think children are very close to heaven. A lot of stories sent to me by children.
Passed away, the animal
Yes,
in a dream,
yes, typically in a dream. A lot. It's not just cats and dogs. It's hamsters, rats. I've had stories about rats, and these are not people who are odd or strange. These are ordinary people who think. And I'm so grateful that they feel they can talk to me, because usually when I get an email, it's like, I haven't told anyone this, but what do you think about this experience I've had? When a pet dies, there's no There's no support network, is it? You just say get another dog. But anyone who's had a dog will know that you can't replace a beloved dog. They are personalities, and their soul lives on. This was very cathartic writing this book, because it's a book I couldn't have written when I started in my 20s at all. It's something that had to have age, life experience, and getting hurt a bit, feeling lost, getting down. It had to be a result of that. So it was quite emotional, really, sort of gathering that all together and trying to put it and to find a meaning. And I think as you get older, you do look back on your life and you try and find a pattern and a meaning. And there is one there. Heaven is weaving its web. Often at the time, though, we have no idea. Things that we think shouldn't happen, people we think we should be with, but we aren't for some reason, and it breaks our heart. When actually you look back when you're much older and you think, thank God that didn't work out. So as I said, it's a book that could only have been written now in the second half of my life, because it took age and life experience. And also, as I said, I've been blessed to be in the position I am. I feel sometimes like the luckiest person alive, because I love the search for meaning. That's what my whole life's been about. And I've been so blessed that life has just given me opportunity after opportunity. Publishers are very kind, because I've been to all the major publishing houses. I'm now with Simon & Schuster. This is my 10th book with them. Would you believe? We're supposed to be cynical in the UK, aren't we? So why are my books still kicking in the top 10 of the Sunday Times? Why is that happening? And they don't promote the books because nobody wants to read about heaven, but the books sell. So some people do want to read about heaven, just that we do it quietly. And I want that to change. I want some spirit back in the UK. I feel a bit of a lone voice here. Because if you go to America, because I lived in America for 4 or 5 years, it's wonderful, because they're so much more vocal about it, and there's so many more talks like this. This kind of talk would happen most nights of the week. You could find people talking about it. And I wish here in the UK we tend to be very, very cynical, and I feel that's a bit sad. Because you don't, just because you believe in life after death and that there is a meaning to this life, doesn't mean to say that you're woo at all. And I just feel that I wish there was a TV show or a radio program or a social network. I would love a social network like to rival Facebook, that people got sick of all this rubbish going on there and actually talked about what really mattered. Talked about what Watkins is selling here. And it's so much more interesting than a selfie and what you had for breakfast, talking about meditation and the search for meaning. How can that not interest anyone? So that's maybe it's my personality. I just find that absolutely fascinating, and I went down so many paths to try and find it. But as I said, my mistake was always to look outside of myself and to try and find it in a 2,000-year-old text, or a meditation guru, or a medium, or an ancient prophet, or a book. When all along, what I needed to do was start thinking, well, what do you think? What does Theresa think? And actually, if what I think, if enough people believe it, a religion could be born. That's how it happens. You look at Jedism, to go back to that, or, people love the Star Wars message, a religion is born. And if you've been to Jedism meetings, they are brilliant. It is a fantastic religion. It's got so much that I relate to and I understand. And I actually, because I asked people to come with, it was my A to Z of religion, I asked people to find their top 3, and I actually found my number 1 was Jedism, followed by spiritualism, followed by Unitarianism. And that was a real shock for me, because I was supposed to be an academic. I read theology at Cambridge. And here was I going to a light-hearted religion, showing that for me what I needed was a bit of humour, because I think that's lacking in religion and spirituality. Humour is also serious. Shouldn't be. And that's what Jedism was great about, it's fun. Religion should be fun and spirituality should be fun. But again, that's a movement where people are looking for their identity in something. And I think you have to grow beyond that. It's a stage of faith. I talk about the stages of faith in the book as well. The first stage being, when you're just self-interest. And then you move to belonging. And that's where most people go with religion. You want to belong. You want your identity from a group. And then you come into the stage which I think most of my readers and myself are at, is becoming. You want to become something outside of the group. The final stage, which I think you only really glimpse when you pass over its bliss, but you can catch glimpses of that in this life. And along the way, there are various signs of spiritual awakening that show that you're ready to move from being to the next stage, to the next stage. One of those is doubt. Another spiritual awakening is the loss of a loved one. I'm sure all of you have lost a loved one. That is the most powerful calling card from heaven ever. It turns your world upside down. And for me, especially, being born in a family of spiritualists, when my mother died, and I didn't get any signs from her, I questioned everything. But again, that questioning was forcing me to grow and to evolve and to try and find out what heaven meant to me. And there are other signs of spiritual awakening. Midlife crisis, that's another sign. Doubt, thinking you found your soulmate when you haven't. All these things, these are signs of spiritual awakening, which we look at as disasters. Depression, addiction. They are, to me, there is a positive side to all these. They are signs of spiritual awakening. Your soul is crying out for you to grow, to stop clinging to limiting perceptions of what heaven is or what the afterlife, and to move on to the next stage. It took me away when I was at a junction in a road, and I was going to turn left, but I heard the voice of my mother who had passed saying, take the right path. And she often used to say that to me in life. It was just something she said. And I assumed it was, take the right path, do the right thing. But for some reason, I just went right when I should have gone left, and there was a massive crash. And I do believe that because I was trailing behind a truck at the time, that truck was involved in it, because I saw it on the news later. That was an incredible thing, because I meant to go left, but I went right. And I don't know why I did, because I heard her voice. It wasn't in my head, it was kind of outside my head. That was my first. I was about 30, early 30s. Took a while, but before that I tried so many. I tried meditation, I tried all sorts of it just didn't happen. And I think part of the problem was I was trying too hard, and I do think, I'm sure you agree, you shouldn't try too hard to have an experience, because they tend to happen when you're relaxed and when you're not expecting them, when you're in a sort of a relaxed state, because it's like, if you want it too much, it's not going to happen. And I think I wanted it too much. And I thought if I could follow a formula, if I did this, that, and the other, meditated this and did that, read this text, and then I would have an experience. And it wasn't like that at all. Yeah, I do. I think it happens when you least expect it. Don't try and force it. But I think reading about it and immersing yourself in it is great as well, because then you start getting your brain looking for these connections and drawing them in. But ignore that. I'm sure we've all had this when something's told us to do something and we've not listened and we've done it and it's been wrong. I could have ignored that. I don't know. I was in a bit of a dreamlike state at the time. I was tired, I remember, as well. And I do find actually disordered sleeping patterns, I found, that I'm more likely to have lucid dreams, dreams when you know that you're dreaming. When you have a dream and you actually know, that's fascinating. And it tends to be when my sleep is a bit disordered. And I was quite tired at the time. It just happened, but you can't predict it, you can't force it. There are some incredible people who seem to have got their mind to such a level that they can actually will these experiences, but I'm not that advanced, I'm afraid. I wish I was, but I'm not. Maybe next life. This is very much a learning life for me, I think. Learning.